C3 AI has been all the buzz over the past month, up more than 100% because of AI. AI changing the world, ChatGPT, all this new stuff, Google competing with Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on and on. But AI has been the recipient. It's even, up more than Microsoft starting to 2023. Why is this? Well, they have AI in their ticker symbol name because their ticker symbol is AI. No, that's not a joke. For those that don't know this yet, C3 AI is literally up, not because of their earnings. Their earnings were horrendous. Their earnings were not because of their leadership or their management. I mean, to give you some context over how their management approaches discussions, the CEO of C3's AI said, if you work for Facebook, you should slit your wrist. I mean, when you've got a guy saying stuff like that, it's you don't have to be the biggest fan of Facebook, but just saying stuff like that to me, it's already kind of shows me the management and the leadership direction of this company. You need to be more eloquent and like Carp and say, we're not running to the metaverse. That's a much better way of saying you don't like Meta. Nonetheless, this is a company that is up because of their ticker symbol. And I got a piece of news from a subscriber. So I want to give a shout out to her because it was awesome that she sent this to me. And this subscriber's name is Cheryl Hodgson. Her website is brandaid.com. brandaide.com. If anyone wants to check her out, I believe she works in her name of her company is called Hodgson Legal. I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry, Cheryl. She sent me this article, and I want to show you guys this article. So thank you for sharing me this article because this article is very interesting. Apparently, and this is pretty funny. This is pretty funny when I saw this article, all right? Apparently, C3 AI tried to sue the CDC for using Palantir. So in December, Palantir got a contract for about $445 million over the next 5 years from the CDC to prevent public health outbreaks. So basically, it's like something that can make sure that COVID doesn't happen again, and if it does happen again, to take the mitigatory steps to stop it. Apparently, the U.S. Government Accountability Office has rejected an artificial intelligence firm, C3 AI, protest over a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention task order requiring the use of Rival's Palantir software, saying the AI company wasn't an interested party. And the reason I'm making this video, A, is to dive deep into this because I think it's some juicy news, but B, it's to kind of highlight again, C3 AI is not touching Palantir. You can have your little Wall Street bets momentum run. If you're a real company, you'd rather be flat during this time or even down and have a real run when Wall Street gets it, not have this fake nonsense run because some people on stock twits think that AI is a funny ticker symbol. The disputed task order set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned small business and awarded to Virginia-based information technology reseller i3 Federal LLC will support the CDC's Common Operating Picture SaaS solution. The exact value of the task order is not specified in the decision, but is above $25 million. According to December 7th Palantir press release, COPS will continue to bring several existing programs that use the company's software into a single platform to plan, manage, and respond to future outbreaks. So these are federal reselling software packages that Palantir partners with all the time, and Palantir explaining why they kind of got this contract, right? In line with that, the request for proposals by the seller that is able to get other vendors, I forget the actual name for it, but Palantir partnered with one of these, Carasoft. That's not the exact vendor in this situation, but these are the types of contracting consulting companies that work with third-party vendors to get Palantir these types of deals. This type of a company required bidders to use Palantir's Foundry, a configuration of Palantir's Gotham data analytics platform, with the agency stating that the use of Foundry was critical to COPS, this is the thing the CDC is using, and must continue to be used as the core platform according to the GAO. Now, C3 AI, a California-based provider of AI and software platforms, said that the brand name justification used by the CDC to require the use of Foundry was improper. And the CDC and, the resellers that work with the CDC, they're like, well, Foundry is getting the job done, so we want you to use Foundry. And C3 AI is like, hey, no, that's not fair. The CDC had alleged that the protest was untimely as the agency had first issued a public notice that it's intended to issue the procurement with recruitment for Palantir products in early September. C3 didn't protest until December, past the 10-day deadline. So not only is the case kind of dumb, but they weren't even timely on being able to file the case in a meaningful way. C3 argued that the CDC's inadequate market analysis undermined CDC's decision to use SCWP as a contracting vehicle. That's what it's probably called, contracting vehicle. But it couldn't show that the CDC had violated any procurement law or regulation or otherwise engaged in any impropriety when the agency chose to use them according to the GAW. And as a result of that, this case has simply not been able to go through. Which is, and the GAO is the U.S. Government Accountability Office that is explaining why the case was not able to go through. Now, why is this funny to me? Palantir sued the US government 10 years ago because the way the government, and I believe the particular division of the government is the army, but it definitely has to do with the military, or it might be the DoD. It's like the intersection of those three. They were improperly procuring software. It was all political. It was all based on who knows who, what handshakes are you doing behind your back. It was not based upon meritocracy. And the definition of meritocracy is if you're here and I'm here, I'm being up here should result in a higher level of success because I probably worked harder from you, and that's why you're here and I'm here, right? I'm at the top, you're at the bottom, or at least I'm at a higher position than you. In layman's terms, my software is better than yours. We put in the more work, we worked harder, we had better technology. We should be the winners of a contract, and that's how the US government should decide these types of contracts. It should not be political. Especially if your contract can't get the job done and the US ultimately, which is funded by taxpayers, any government, is wasting taxpayers' money because they're picking the thing that's inadequate and that's not going to work, which is why, we think Palantir should be able to get the NHS contract, which is why I think it's going to happen because the NHS probably doesn't want to waste billions of dollars of taxpayer money on something that doesn't work. Palantir sued them and it worked because Palantir was right. Palantir actually had a case. C3 AI trying to sue the CDC for requiring Foundry as the basic operating system to be able to engage to bid for a contract, which inevitably excludes C3 AI, right? Because then they can't use it, is a joke. And it's a joke because they are assuming that their software is better than Palantir. They're assuming their software has the ability to be able to eclipse Palantir. And maybe in some situations it does. Maybe in some different, different scenarios, C3 has a better ability to do what Palantir's Foundry done. The C3 AI is not the real deal. And, from the research I've done, from the people I've talked to, it's not that C3 is a bad company. It's not like they're lying or anything like that. It's just they're not the real deal. They're not Palantir. And because they're not Palantir, they're not getting $455 million contracts from the CDC. Now, they've gotten some government contracts, right? So it's not like C3 doesn't have any government contracts, so they can't get any. But they're not Palantir. And so as a result of that, it was just funny to kind of look into how a company is trying to sue Palantir for saying, like, we're good, like we're better than them. And the CDC is like, no, get out of here. Like, you're not doing any of that. Now, granted, maybe the CDC could have went with them if they had better information about them, better knowledge, but I would argue that based on how the government's procuring software, they always want the cheapest option. And if they're still paying Palantir the premium, it's because they realize that if the cheapest option doesn't get the job done, or it's just not easy enough to integrate, or it's just not suitable to actually build out a meaningful relationship because you're going to work with that company for the next 5 years, there's a 5-year contract, then why go through the headache of trying to get some other company to get the job done? Might as well pay a little bit extra to Palantir. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. Look, I think C3 is an interesting company. I don't know enough about them. I did think their earnings were pretty horrendous and really not strong. There's a pretty famous short seller firm on Twitter that's like completely short against C3 AI because they don't believe there's any value there. And they believe the run-up is because of the ticker. I don't recommend shorting or buying puts on it because you never know. As the market rallies, this thing could just pop as well. But I do think Palantir is the real deal. And it's kind of interesting because it's like a company suing another company to not use Palantir is in some way legitimizing why that company is using Palantir, right? It's like if you got to sue them to be able to beat them and you can't win the court case, maybe the tech is not good enough to actually beat them. So those are my thoughts. Just some juicy news we wanted to run into with C3 and Palantir. Let me know your thoughts. Do you hold C3? Do you hold Palantir? Look forward to reading the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one.